Good afternoon, good evening. I just stumbled across the news that Dylan was found. I haven't had a chance to review the story from East Idaho News. I got a text from Telina. So um, uh, I'm not sure where, other than it's the Utah desert. Oops, I kind of have messed up my browser here. Let me get things readjusted here. I don't know. This is really weird. What happened? Okay, there we go. All right. Hello, Crafts and Crime. Yes, we have breaking news. Let's go to Nate Eaton here and find out the details that he has. And I've been planning a trip out to Lucin and Montello to do some video work. I can't go out to hi Not hi Matt. The family doesn't want me going out to the farm. Um, I'm going to check with a friend who is a professional photographer using drones. He would be able to tell me whether or not it's okay to fly drones over the property or not. I think he might want to go out. He's into true crime as well. And so I might see if he's interested in going out to do some drone photography. Maybe we can visit the location. Somebody is saying that Kurt has fled. I don't know if that's true. Yes. Hi, Gaelic girl. It's really sad. Yes, Jess knows. She's going to be coming on. I just phoned her. She got texted by Taylina, and while I was on the phone with her, Taylina texted me, and so the hearing date is, I remember it as the 13th, 14th, and 15th. Now, Candace Cooley says that I've got the dates wrong. Maybe the dates have changed in the last 5 months or however many months it's been. But I saw something posted last night, but it wasn't sure. Could be that they found a body, but they hadn't identified it yet. So let me get this here pulled up and get this set up. So I don't know exactly what's going on, but let's find out some more. I'm getting a message from somebody. Let me check. She says they were led to him. So okay, let's take a look and watch this here. Okay, here we go.
Rounds, his remains have been found in the remote area of Lucin, Utah. Dylan is the young 19-year-old who vanished over Memorial Day weekend back in 2022. He was a farmer. He moved to the desert town of Lucin, Utah, which is in northern Utah, kind of near the Nevada border, when he vanished. And his family tells me that this morning his remains were found near or in Lucin in a remote area. That's all the information that we have at the moment from his family. Of course, Rounds had been missing since May of 2022. The 19-year-old spoke with his mother on the phone right before he vanished, and his family has spent the past 2 years searching for answers. His mother, Candace Cooley, tells me that as part of a plea agreement with James Brenner, the man accused of killing Dylan,
Oops.
Brenner led the
Let's see.
investigators out to the site where the remains were on Tuesday morning, which would be today, on April 9th, in case you're just tuning in, or you're watching on another day. They got there, they found those remains, and they have been recovered. Now, Brenner is charged with aggravated murder and abuse or desecration of a human body in connection to Round's death. Let me show you just how remote this area is. That's where Dylan was farming. That was his camper. That was his truck. And you can see there's not much around this area. It really was a desolate, desolate area. James Brenner, this is the man who is facing those charges. Um, he again must have said something to investigators or cooperated or something. We don't have all of the details at this point, but they do have the remains because of where James Brenner led them. This is a spot where James Brenner had his camper. He lived near Dylan Rounds out there. Both of them were in separate campers. And when Dylan's family went out to begin looking for him in late May of 2022, they found his boots right there behind that mound of dirt, which was some distance off. And there was also a shed right by James Brenner's camper. This is what that shed looked like. And within a few days of Dylan disappearing, James Brenner cleaned that shed to the point of how it looks now. You know, it doesn't look very clean, maybe to some of us, but he did remove bags out of that shed, according to Dylan's family, and he did take those to an undisclosed location. And so all of this would likely have come into play if there was a trial. It still could, as far as evidence. But as I mentioned, according to Dylan's family, as part of some sort of plea deal, Brenner took the authorities to the area where Dylan's body was, and they were able to find it. I spoke with Dylan's family. They, of course, are a lot of emotions tonight. This has been such a mystery since for 2 years now. But Candace did ask me to convey, we thank everyone for their support and love. We are grateful we now have Dylan's body and can bring him home as we continue our fight for justice. And unclear when Mr. Brenner will appear in court again. There was a hearing scheduled for this month, but at last check that was delayed. However, now with the recovery of Dylan's body, it could be had sooner rather than later. I want to show you on a map just where this place is because it's desolate. And when I say this place, I don't mean where Dylan's remains were actually found, other than it was in the Lucin area, but that's a very large area. But this is where Lucin is. If you pull out here, you can see the Nevada-Utah uh, border right here on the left of your screen. And then over here is Montello, Nevada. Dylan went back and forth between Montello and Lucin quite a bit. This was another, if you want to say big town, it's not real big, but the closest, nearest town to where Lucin is. So he went back and forth between these two places. And in the early stages of the investigation, there was a lot of focus on Montello, and then it seemed to shift into Lucin. I don't even know if there's a population count for Lucin, but they do have an airport, as you can see. If we zoom out quite a bit more, this will give you a reference as far as where this is located. So over here is Tremont in Utah, Brigham City, Malad is here, Lava Hot Springs, Blackfoot, Shelley. So it's right over here. And it's quite a distance if you were to fly from Idaho Falls, or excuse me, if you were to drive from Idaho Falls down to Lucin. But this is where his body was found, and this is where family are breathing a sigh of relief now that his remains have been found. So there still are a lot of questions. There still are some court stuff to obviously get worked out, to get solved, to get taken care of. This has been a case we've covered extensively on East Idaho News since Dylan vanished. In fact, here was a picture just at CrimeCon last year. They put up a "Have you seen me" poster with all of these nice messages around them. Keep fighting. Love how his parents represent him. We will find you, Dylan. Hold on to hope. And then there's these wonderful photos that his mother has shared with us and on publicly on social media. There's little Dylan as a young boy feeding pigs. There he is on a tractor. He loved farming, was big into farming, big into the outdoors, fishing. There he is. I don't know if he's taking care of a sheep there. Looks like he might be. And here he is on a tractor, which again, he loved to farm. And that's what took him out to that location so that he could begin farming. He was raised in Eastern Idaho. His father is still in Eastern Idaho, Justin Rounds. And tonight, again, they have the answer they've been waiting for. They have recovered Dylan Rounds' body. We will continue to follow this story and bring you the latest developments. We have reached out to the Box Elder County Sheriff's Office to see if they have any comment. What usually happens in these types of cases is they cannot confirm right away 100%, like we know the ID. They'll send the body away for identification, and then it takes a day or two to get 100% confirmation. So that might be the case in this particular case, but we will just have to wait and see what they have to say. But we will keep you updated. And tonight, our thoughts, our prayers go out to Dylan and his family. Such a big piece of the puzzle that's finally, hopefully, closed in and bringing them a little bit of a closure or at least some answers to the questions they have had for so long. I'm Nate Eaton reporting.
Okay, so and he just happened to choose the picture that I had chosen for the thumbnail too. Yes, I already have money set aside to go out to Lucin and Montello for another trek out there, and I think that I will see about getting my friend who is an expert drone operator to go with me, because he that's kind of how True Crime Utah came into being. Was he and a gal from up, I think she's in Tremonton, and her daughter went to school with Chase Venstra's one of Chase Venstra's daughters, and we were in a ghost town group, and somehow the subject of true crime came up, and we really took over the thread. And so somebody said, well, we really should start our own true crime group. And so I decided to take the bull by the horn and start True Crime Utah as a group with them. And so yeah, this is right up their alley. There's another guy who he does a lot of videos and going out to scenes and so forth, and he might be interested in going too. So I didn't really catch it from let me see. Let's stop doing a screen share there. Let me check and see if there's anything else. One of my friends says that that Kurt Wadsworth fled. But there wasn't anything in there. I don't know if that's true. As far as I'm concerned, that's just a rumor. I don't know that whether he's involved or not. Hi, Karen Lee. Well, he might have been hoping for a shot at some kind of reduction or a more favorable deal. Utah has a law which prevents somebody who is eligible for parole from being released unless they've made a good faith effort for law enforcement to find the body. And if they can't find the body because conditions have changed since then, they have to have reason to believe that this was a good faith effort. Otherwise, the person has to stay in prison for another 5 years. So that's so Nate Eaton said that the hearing date was postponed for the preliminary, so I don't have to worry about that interfering with Chad Daybell's case, which I'm going to be starting covering tomorrow. Oh, your battery's going. Well, I expect this might be short, but I'm gonna plan on doing some more lives, and I think maybe I'll show some videos, in the background that I took out there, just showing how vast the area is. I videotaped going from Montello to the North Gate for the grain shed, then onto the grain shed, and then from the grain shed going from the North Gate to elsewhere, then going to the Lucin Pond back to Montello, just so that you can see how vast and open the space is. It's really, you just don't sense how vast it is just from looking at it. And so I thought real-time traveling with it's not great video, but and at one point the phone gets dropped and turned upside down, and so it's not the greatest, but it gives you a really good idea of just how vast the space is out there. And when I go out there, I'm gonna see if I can't find out where exactly the body was located, so that we can go see it after this is probably not going to be for a little while yet. The crime scene will have to be released and so forth. So, but I want to see where it is in relation to the grain shed and the farm and everything else. And, is it close to anything that anybody looked at? This is big news. So I'm going to be covering the Chad Daybell trial starting tomorrow morning with opening arguments, if anybody wants to join me, and probably during lunch hour I may do any updates then, if any new details come out about Dylan. I'm just so pleased that they're going to be able to give him a proper burial, because the not knowing was just terrible. The speculation, and was he dissolved in acid? Was he, this? Was he that? And so forth. And so the family can lay him to rest, and that's really great. So, oh, thank you, Matt, for posting that. I put the link in my community tab so that anyone who wants to do that. Now, when Lori was convicted, I went the following day down to Springville, where Tammy is from, and where Chad worked as a grave digger. And I found her grave, and I gave her. I put a flower arrangement. Well, actually, a grapevine wreath with apples on it, because Tammy was a school teacher, and put it on her grave. And I hope we can do that again here soon when Chad is convicted. You wonder if the location was the wash that Candace was planning to search when the weather got better. A wash would be a good, easy way to bury a body. Now, I had information last year that somebody thought they had found a place near a wash further afield. It sounds to me like, from what Nate said, that this was closer to Lucin. So it sounds like that lead was not a valid lead. Hello, Only Grants. Yes, we have news. I first saw the story from Nate Eaton, and then I got a text from Talina, who she's actually become texting me about other breaking cases. There's a big case in East Idaho, which I've been started following. Robert, it's like Jeremy Best, who murdered his pregnant wife and a 10-month-old son, and that I'm hoping Nate will do the trial when that comes up. Lori Vallow's attorney, Jim Archibald, is his attorney, and they are pursuing the death penalty in that case. And one of the special prosecutors from Lori's case is now the lead prosecutor in that case. And Talina put me onto that. And so I'm just so pleased that we have this, and I'm going to look at some of my material and see about doing another stream soon about Dylan. Get some of this other stuff here. So Nate Eaton said it was in the Lucin area. The space is so vast, even though people went over it with drones and so forth. It was so easy to miss. He can't plead insanity, Karen Lee, because Idaho doesn't have the insanity plea. So if he, hi Jess. Yes, it's just mind-boggling. Jeremy Best cannot plead insanity, just like Lori couldn't plead insanity. Now, I think in Arizona, Lori will plead insanity, and it'll be interesting to see whether the jury goes for that or not. So, and I think there's good cause to believe that Jeremy Best was not competent, or that he was insane, because I mean, earlier that day of the murder, he was in a store bare naked, causing a disruption, and sane people just don't do that. So, hi Indiana, it's always good to see you. Yeah, let me play the video from Nate Eaton over one more time for people who joined in late here. So let's do that one more time. me get this set up here. Okay, just a sec. Let me share the screen. Yeah, and I'm gonna be making another trek out to Lucin and Montello coming up. I just wanted the land to dry out a little more first because we've had a lot of rain, and so just want to make sure that I don't have issues. I've got a new car, a little Suzuki Sprint, which gets great gas mileage so that I can take it places. So yeah, it is very sad. But you know, the wandering, the worst is over now, and they can start to put their lives back together again, and you know. Okay, here we go. Let's start this again. See what I missed the first time around.
Eaton with EastIdahoNews.com. We have some breaking news to bring you right now. The body of Dylan Rounds has been found. Dylan Rounds, his remains have been found in the remote area of Lucin, Utah. Dylan is the young 19-year-old who vanished over Memorial Day weekend back in 2022. He was a farmer. He moved to the desert town of Lucin, Utah, which is in northern Utah, kind of near the Nevada border, when he vanished. And his family tells me that this morning his remains were found near or in Lucin in a remote area. That's all the information that we have at the moment from his family. Of course, Rounds had been missing since May of 2022. The 19-year-old spoke with his mother on the phone right before he vanished, and his family has spent the past 2 years searching for answers. His mother, Candace Cooley, tells me that as part of a plea agreement with James Brenner, the man accused of killing Dylan, Brenner led the investigators out to the site where the remains were on Tuesday morning, which would be today, April 9th, in case you're just tuning in, or you're watching on another day. They got there, they found those remains, and they have been recovered. Now, Brenner is charged with aggravated murder and abuse or desecration of a human body in connection to Round's death. Let me show you just how remote this area is. That's where Dylan was farming. That was his camper. That was his truck. And you can see there's not much around this area. It really was a desolate area. James Brenner, this is the man who is facing those charges. He again must have said something to investigators or cooperated or something. We don't have all of the details at this point, but they do have the remains because of where James Brenner led them. This is a spot where James Brenner had his camper. He lived near Dylan Rounds out there. Both of them were in separate campers. And when Dylan's family went out to begin looking for him in late May of 2022, they found his boots right there behind that mound of dirt, which was some distance off. And there was also a shed right by James Brenner's camper. This is what that shed looked like. And within a few days of Dylan disappearing, James Brenner cleaned that shed to the point of how it looks now. You know, it doesn't look very clean, maybe to some of us, but he did remove bags out of that shed, according to Dylan's family, and he did take those to an undisclosed location. And so all of this would likely have come into play if there was a trial. It still could, as far as evidence. But as I mentioned, according to Dylan's family, as part of some sort of plea deal, Brenner took the authorities to the area where Dylan's body was, and they were able to find it. I spoke with Dylan's family. They, of course, are a lot of emotions tonight. This has been such a mystery since for 2 years now. But Candace did ask me to convey, we thank everyone for their support and love. We are grateful we now have Dylan's body and can bring him home as we continue our fight for justice. And unclear when Mr. Brenner will appear in court again. There was a hearing scheduled for this month, but at last check that was delayed. However, now with the recovery of Dylan's body, it could be had sooner rather than later. I want to show you on a map just where this place is because it's desolate. And when I say this place, I don't mean where Dylan's remains were actually found, other than it was in the Lucin area, but that's a very large area. But this is where Lucin is. If you pull out here, you can see the Nevada-Utah uh, border right here on the left of your screen. And then over here is Montello, Nevada. Dylan went back and forth between Montello and Lucin quite a bit. This was another, if you want to say big town, it's not real big, but the closest, nearest town to where Lucin is. So he went back and forth between these two places. And in the early stages of the investigation, there was a lot of focus on Montello, and then it seemed to shift into Lucin. I don't even know if there's a population count for Lucin, but they do have an airport, as you can see. If we zoom out quite a bit more, this will give you a reference as far as where this is located. So over here is Tremont in Utah, Brigham City, Malad is here, Lava Hot Springs, Blackfoot, Shelley. So it's right over here, and it's quite a distance.
Oh.
Oops.
Do you feel like calling me later? Yeah, I will, Harry. Okay.
This is where his body was found, and this is where family are breathing a sigh of relief now that his remains have been found. So there still are a lot of questions. There still are some court stuff to obviously get worked out, to get solved, to get taken care of. This has been a case we've covered extensively on East Idaho News since Dylan vanished. In fact, here was a picture just at CrimeCon last year. They put up a "Have you seen me" poster with all of these nice messages around them. Keep fighting. Love how his parents represent him. We will find you, Dylan. Hold on to hope. And then there's these wonderful photos that his mother has shared with us and on publicly on social media. There's little Dylan as a young boy feeding pigs. There he is on a tractor. He loved farming, was big into farming, big into the outdoors, fishing. There he is. I don't know if he's taking care of a sheep there. Looks like he might be. And here he is on a tractor, which, again, he loved to farm. And that's what took him out to that location so that he could begin farming. He was raised in Eastern Idaho. His father is still in Eastern Idaho, Justin Rounds. And tonight, again, they have the answer they've been waiting for. They have recovered Dylan Rounds' body. We will continue to follow this story and bring you the latest developments. We have reached out to the Box Elder County Sheriff's Office to see if they have any comment. What usually happens in these types of cases is they cannot confirm right away 100%. Like, we know the ID, they'll send the body away for identification, and then it takes a day or two to get 100% confirmation. So that might be the case in this particular case, but we will just have to wait and see what they have to say. But we will keep you updated. And tonight, our thoughts, our prayers go out to Dylan and his family. Such a big piece of the puzzle that's finally, hopefully, closed in and bringing them a little bit of closure, or at least some answers to the questions they have had for so long. I'm Nate Eaton reporting.
Okay, so that was part of the plea deal. And I stopped it. I didn't realize I had muted myself, but I really don't see him getting some sweet deal like 5 years or something on something like this. I would say they dropped the desecration of a corpse, which can drop it down from aggravated murder to regular murder, and probably gives him some better options in jail or prison and so forth. But this is huge news. I'm hoping that we will get a press conference. I'm not sure if we'll get that before the coroner has a chance to do the autopsy. And I don't know what exactly was done to him, so it could take a long time. I was listening to a terrible case where somebody had chopped the person into small bits and they never recovered all of the bits, and it took forever for them to do the autopsy, and they couldn't figure out the cause of death because of what was done. And I'm hoping that's not what happened with Dylan. But if we're not going to have a trial, then it's not quite so critical.
Glory,
Anyway,
that was my question, is what we don't get a trial now because he took a plea bargain, right?
yes, and we
So,
probably won't get to know a lot of the details as a result. And that'll be frustrating.
it is frustrating. Just, we're almost 2 years in this case, but I would give that up any day for the fact that he has
Yeah.
been found and can be properly buried. I mean, I'm still in shock. I'm just
Well,
still in shock.
a year ago, Candace was saying, no deal, and she was extremely upset when they decided not to pursue the death penalty. And so, I'm not sure quite what happened, but they wouldn't have done the plea deal without getting the family's blessing.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to a point where we know that Brenner is not in the best of health, the best of shape. He could die. He could. He's older. He's not in good health. So I would rather know where my son is. I'd rather have my son's body. And I have to be honest. I was really frustrated with Candace and Justin when Brenner called them and wanted to talk to them, and they just immediately hung up on him. And I've been saying since then, why did they do that? Like, they had every opportunity. Obviously, he was feeling something and wanted to talk to them. And I always said that I believe that Brenner could definitely be broken
Well,
if the right person talked to him.
yeah, and we had been hearing reports from Candace that he wanted to fire his lawyers, and he wanted to talk to them, but
Yeah,
and so it looks like
it happens.
finally, we have some resolution, and it shows that maybe he has some conscience left.
I always actually thought he did.
Mhm.
My view of Brenner was low IQ, a big softy actually on the inside, but due to the low IQ, his first reaction to things is anger, lashing
Mhm.
out, and stuff like that. So, but I think Brenner just reminds me of the type of person that would freak out, punch you, and then cry about it later. Like, oh, I'm so sorry that I did that. I didn't mean to do that. And I feel like that's possibly, probably, maybe what happened with him and Dylan. I feel like there was some angry outburst. He murdered him, but when I found out that he had called the family, I just, I just knew he's calling them for a reason. He wants to say something, and so when they hung up on him, I was so frustrated with that. But I was warming my spaghetti up in the microwave, and I get a text from Taylina, saying, they found Dylan's body today. And oh my God, are you serious? I could not believe it, because this is a case that'll never leave me. But I haven't talked about Dylan really with anyone for months. And the oddest thing today, a friend that knows nothing about the case, I just, for some reason, went on this big rant to her about this whole case. And I told her all about Montello and Lucen and all the stuff. And, she's just reading and then finally I was like, I'm really sorry. I just have been very passionate about this case. And I said, but they'll probably never find him because, Brenner chopped him up. And that's literally what I said. That sounds horrible, but that is what I said. And I don't think it was 45 minutes later that I'm getting a text from Taylina that they found him. And I'm just mind blown, because I just thought that when they found the phone and the way they described, Brenner with blood up to his elbows, my thought was he cut him up, that he mutilated him. But I mean, if he's been buried, did he cut him up and just bury different parts? I mean, it sounds like he's intact, but what would they find of him? I mean, again, on my birthday, on May 28th, it's going to be 2 years. So if he's been buried for 2 years, it would be bone by now, I would assume. I mean, I'm not
It'd be
in
bone
that.
fragments. There might be a little bit of sinew. It depends on whether he was buried or if he was on the surface. In some ways, could actually be better if he had been on the surface, because that might have led to some of it drying, like sinew and so forth. Yeah, I don't know.
I just, because when you were talking about autopsy, I was like, what are they actually going to autopsy? Because I just wouldn't imagine that there would be flesh left after all this time.
Well, they will look for a gunshot wound, impact on the bones.
Okay.
If they're fragments, they'll try to assemble them back into
the pieces.
the
Because for some reason, I don't know why, this is just my own thoughts, but I just always pictured Brenner like hitting Dylan in the head. So I don't know why. There's nothing behind that. That's just me of hours and hours and hours and days and days and days thinking about this case. But I just always, for some reason, had that image in my head that he hit him in the head. So I don't know. I mean, I guess if his bones are found, they would be able to see that impact on his skull, or if that's what happened, I don't know. But I'm kind of bothered that he took a plea deal, and I hope it's nothing stupid where he gets like 10 years or something. I mean, he snuffed out a 20-year-old guy. He stole his whole life.
Let's see what I can't imagine they would let him off with less than second-degree murder.
So because I was really happy when I was like, oh my God, I'm shaking, I cry, that body was found. But then I listened to the thing and I was like, oh, wait a minute. He took a plea bargain. So what's the plea bargain? But I can't imagine with Candace being the way that she is, that she would have agreed to something really low or something.
Let's see. Second-degree murder. They're saying 1 to 15 years in prison. I can't see that they would let him out after a year. I really don't.
Oh gosh, they better not. I don't think so.
Let's see. First degree is 5 to life. Usually, most of them, if they get a first degree, it might be that they say he's eligible for parole after 20 years or something, so that he might theoretically be released as a very old man.
Yeah, because how old is Brenner again?
He's 50 something. Let's Google that.
Yeah, I thought about that because when I heard plea bargain, I was like, okay, anything short of 20 years for this guy. Because I thought Brenner was like in his early 60s, but it might be like late 50s, early 60s. I just don't remember.
59 is what he was in
Okay.
2022.
Okay, so he is 60.
Yeah, he's
61.
61 now, so
So 20 years, you're not getting out before you're 80 if you even live till then.
yeah, and
Definitely take that.
so I kind of suspect that that's the kind of deal, and the family would, of course, be there to say, "Oh no, he shouldn't get out," and they're young enough that they can be there for at any hearing. I mean, the Mansons.
God, I'm gonna cry. I don't know why. I am literally picturing him buried. I am picturing sunflowers around his grave. His brother and his sister can go and see him and mourn him. His grandparents. These people, these are real people. They're not just people on a screen. They're not just people on the news. These are real people. I mean, I just can't imagine what they feel finding their loved one after 2 years.
I could see them going with a headstone with a tractor and some sunflowers on it.
Yeah, that's gonna make me cry. If I feel like if I watch any kind of memorials for him, I'm just gonna cry the whole time. I just am. I've always thought it was an insane misjustice that this boy was snuffed out the way that he was.
Yeah, well, when they do get around to having a funeral service for him, assuming that they do a stream of that, we'll have to see about streaming this funeral service.
Honestly, because now that I've moved to Oklahoma, I'm only 5 hours from Montello and Lucin.
It's
I
a lot
am.
closer than Delaware.
Yeah, it's a lot closer than Delaware. So, if they had a memorial, and if I was able to, I would definitely take off of work and probably try to head out there. I mean, it just, this case has been so overwhelming for myself. I know you've been so invested. The detective, who I always refer to as detective, you know who I'm speaking of, Lori. Just so overwhelming, I feel like, for so many people, and especially his family, but all the other people. We don't even know Dylan, and just the emotional investment, the time investment. I think back to that time 2 years ago where I was on the phone with all these people and falling asleep in my garage, and literally, so it
Falling
just,
asleep on the phone calls.
yeah, I'm notorious for that. But because it was, I mean, it was hours and hours of talking to so many different people. I was just literally fall asleep, because I was so exhausted. But I'm just so glad that he did this and led them to him. I knew he could be broken. I have said that for so long. I have said that to the detective 1,000 times. I know Brenner can be broken. If the right person talks to him and gets to him, he can be broken. I mean, I don't know if they broke him because he took a plea deal. But either way, I mean, this guy was just so emotional. He really was.
Well, a lot of people don't want to take a plea deal. They want to maintain their innocence, even though it's glaringly obvious that they are, like a certain person whose trial starts tomorrow morning.
Oh, the toad, Chad Daybell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get batters up, Chad. I can't wait for him to go down. But we should probably stick to Dylan, because if you get me on Chad, I'll never shut up. So, you know, but goodness gracious, I have so many questions and I'm just stuck right now. Like, what does this mean? We're never going to find out exactly what he did to Dylan. I'm
Well,
assuming.
there's always doing a FOIA request when the investigation's all done, and see about what was the confession, where,
Yeah, I would like to know what started this. How did we get
yeah.
here? Was it an argument? What was the argument about? Was it about parking in the grain shed area? How did this come about? And that's really what I want to know, what I've always wanted to know. Just how did you get to this point that you murdered him? So I don't know. I was kind of really looking forward to Brenner's trial, but at the same
I
time,
was looking I was looking forward to just getting some more information from the preliminary hearing.
yeah, but at least we know that
Yeah.
without a doubt that Brenner is toast.
Yeah.
And the greatest thing of all, they found him. I
Yeah.
mean, it really doesn't get any better than that. Our need for information is going to have to take a back seat here, because that's really what matters. But I just my curiosity does get the better of me with
Yeah.
that.
Well, let's say in theory he got it dropped down to second degree, and he's 1 to whatever on the penalty. That the family is going to be there at every parole hearing.
Oh yeah,
And
they definitely should be. Aubrey, sorry, Aubrey, step out, step out. Okay, thank you. Can you shut mommy's door, please? I'm so sorry. The oddest thing I was telling the detective, I was like, the thing that drew me to this case was that Dylan disappeared on my birthday. Well, today is Aubrey's birthday.
oh.
Disappeared on my birthday. He was found on Aubrey's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to make me cry. Good God. I got to get a hold of myself. I don't know this. I don't know why I'm just, I feel incredibly emotional. I truly do.
Now,
I,
one little thing that people have asked about is whatever happened to Black Dove? He kind of
um,
disappeared.
I don't know. Um,
So
I
you
haven't
haven't heard.
talked to Dove in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to tell any of his personal things that he shared with me,
No.
but, um, Dove had things going on in his life and in
Yeah.
his private life. And this case, whether people know it or not, literally meant the world to him. I
Yeah.
mean, he really was truly very personally, emotionally invested
Mm-hmm.
in this. And
Oh,
and a lot of the time it was a lot for him, you know.
I would send him a message.
I can. I
Yeah.
can. I don't know if he'll answer it or not, because again, I
Yeah.
haven't talked to him in so long, but I definitely can. I mean, I kind of hope that he's just sort of lurking around
Mm-hmm.
and sees that Dylan has actually been found,
Yeah.
because sadly, and I get it, but Dove always held out the hope that Dylan was really alive somewhere.
Yeah.
No matter what, he just always held out that hope. And I would always try to break it to him nicely, like, that's probably not likely, but he would always buck
Mm-hmm.
me on it. No matter what, he would always buck me on that, and come up with some way that, Dylan was alive. And he was just very emotional about the case. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a lot for him. And I think
Yeah.
he
And
just finally backed away.
yeah, well, for one's own sanity, sometimes one has to do that, because
I had to do that.
you just can't sustain that level of
Intense
yeah, for
focus
indefinitely.
on such a grim thing. You know what I mean? On such a grim topic.
Well,
It's
and
just
he was
hard.
trying to hold out hope, but there was so little
Hope to be
to
had.
help feed that hope, that you
Yeah.
know and listening to everybody else theorize about what happened, and so forth.
Yeah, he really hated it. He did. He hated any time I would ever try to just privately break it to him that the likelihood that Dylan was alive was almost slim to none.
mhm.
And I didn't even like saying that myself. You never want to believe that, but it's kind of obvious sometimes, and so he just always would try to find a way around it, and I respected it about him. I
Yeah,
mean, that's people have feelings, people have emotions, and I mean, mine. I started shaking. I mean, as soon as I got that text from Taylina, I just kind of, I felt my whole body tense. Like, this cannot be real. This can't be real. And I mean, immediately, I don't know if you two have telekinesis, but as soon as she texts me, "You're calling me," and I'm like, "Oh my God, this is real. They have actually found him." And I don't know. I really hope for his grandparents, especially his grandparents, his grandmother, that this brings some peace to her,
oh,
you know.
it has to help, because they're not left wondering.
Exactly.
I
Like,
mean,
where
you
is he?
look at Susan Powell. She disappeared in 2007 or 2009. Um,
Whew.
let's see.
That's Yes, Susan Powell, and she's never been found. You
And
just
2009. And the chances of her being found are nigh on impossible at this point.
it's just slims around.
The only chance is if somebody comes across some bone, or they happen to be digging or something, and they happen to glance at the right direction at the right time, at the right
Yeah.
time of year, so that they see something that makes them curious and go take a closer look.
Well,
And
I'll tell your audience something that as soon as I found this out, you went through my head, and my little, I'm not going to say his name because he never ever wanted to be public, but you do know who he is, Glory. You've been on
yeah,
the phone with him.
I phoned
Um,
him first, and then I phoned
did
you.
you?
So,
Well, no, not the detective. I'm talking about the person that was out in Lucin
oh,
that was
okay.
actively looking for
Oh,
Dylan.
yes.
Yes, and I thought about him, and I always just felt that he was like a FBI person.
Hmm.
That he was out there, and because he just so randomly contacted me, and if you remember,
Hmm.
your
Oh, yeah.
friend, he passed away,
Yes, Marcos.
Marcos. We got him on the phone, and because this person had found some bones, and they turned out not to be Dylan's, obviously. But I thought about him, and I just thought, was he a part of it? Was he out there? I'll never know because
Hmm.
I've never talked to him. I haven't talked to, well, I've never talked to him since the last time, but that was well over a year ago at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just, the people that this has affected that I know, like behind the scenes, just how much we thought about, theorized, talked about this case and Dylan, and this is like a come to Jesus moment that he's been found, and it just feels surreal. It doesn't feel real. And I have to say, Justin Rounds, Dylan's dad, just the torture, the emotional torture that you would watch on Facebook play out with him. And there was a lot of that with Justin. I mean, he would post songs, and you could tell that he would get in his emotions, he would get in his feelings, and he would post these things. And I'll never forget the time that he posted the what was the song? Man, Little Boy Spoon, Man Over the Moon, is that what it's called?
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, he posted that song, and I clicked it, and I listened to it from Justin's like perspective, and I just bawled my eyes out. So I mean, Justin, I think has shown different, feelings on Facebook and stuff like that. Not crazy overtly, but it was definitely there. So I can't imagine how he feels, just how the family feels. I believe that Candace Cooley did say something, didn't she? That she was thankful or much love to everybody. I Googled something and she said something to people. Let me see. Um, but yeah, I was reading that. I don't know. That doesn't have her quote on here, but she did say something like love and stuff to people, but I don't know. I would have to find it. It's overwhelming to me.
Mhm.
I don't know what else to say. I need some time to think about Brenner's little plea deal. And oh, that's what she said. Yeah, that was in the East Idaho News. She said, "We thank everyone for their support and love. We are grateful we now have Dylan's body and can bring him home as we continue our fight for justice."
Yeah. Well, it looks
I
like
don't think they have to fight for justice because he's pled guilty. Yes.
well, he is taking a plea deal, so he is accepting punishment. We will find out at some point just what that punishment is. It looks like slowly word is starting to get out. We had something from Profiling Evil, a little 2-minute spot, and
Oh, really? What did he
Mob
say?
Crew and Duty Ron.
Okay. Yeah, I figured
So,
they would be on top of that. I don't know if Doug is he still on YouTube? I don't know.
oh, he got kicked off YouTube.
Oh, he did. Oh, I didn't know that. That's how much I paid attention to him. But I would just the YouTubers off the top of my head who were really into this case, I would assume, Tyler, the religious guy, is he reporting on this at all? I would assume. No.
Tyler Feller, I haven't seen him yet, but I expect he'll probably do something on it tomorrow. So, hi, Bee's Knees. I think I saw you on a live stream early this morning on HG Tutor. Or was it another live stream? Anyway, I wasn't sure if it was you or not because I thought, well, it might be somebody else with the same name, but I looked at the profile picture.
Are
So,
you snooping on people, Glory?
oh no, I was watching HG Tutor because he was doing a when HG met Meghan Markle, the next segment, and
I love him. I love him. These people probably have no idea who we're talking about. He's a British guy. He covers the royals, and he loves to do the Meghan Markle narcissist.
yeah.
He
Well,
cracks me up with that though. But
I
yeah,
just wish that he would narrate some nonfiction books or some fiction books because I just love his voice.
I do too. His voice is very attractive. Which I mean, he's a self-proclaimed narcissist. But
Hmm.
again, we're off topic here.
Yeah.
I want to know where you think exactly kind of where Dylan was found. Like, do you think he was found close to the grain shed or closer to Montello? Because it says, somewhere on the border, but Lucin is kind of on the border. I mean, what is it? About
Well,
20 minutes from
it
Montello?
says the Lucin area, so I would say probably somewhere within the 5-mile radius. I mean, that's the range of his vehicle.
Well, that's what the detective and I were talking about because, it was said a long time ago that Brenner's truck, it overheated, so he couldn't go any more than 5 miles. So, that was a question for us of, well, where was Dylan's body? And where was it found? And if it was outside of those 5 miles that Brenner's truck was able to go, if it was outside of it, what vehicle was used?
Well, he might have
Yes,
used
Badger Life.
He might have
I
used Dylan's truck, or he might have used his vehicle. I would think that Dylan's truck would make a lot more sense because, then you can
I
try to
remember the
wash it
early
down.
speculation of the truck being washed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking of that. Like, did he put him in Dylan's truck? Did he drive him out wherever he buried him? And can we just be honest here?
It,
Don Haley that hid the guns for James Brenner.
mhm. Okay,
Do we?
Badger just came on, and she's been following this from all along, and she
Yeah.
says near the Nevada border. So, um, I'll have to pull out those videos that I did on my second trip out there, where I just videotaped going
Yeah.
from Montello to Lucin and out there, so you could just see the terrain and everything, in real time, and just kind of get the sense of just how vast it is.
And it
And
is about how far from Lucin is it to Montello? 20, 30 minutes?
yeah, I'd say it's about a 30-minute drive. You,
Okay.
you can't go very fast when you get onto the dirt roads. So
What is the town right on the border with the casinos? What is that town? I
that's
forgot the name.
Mesquite, or no, Mesquite is the one down south. Elko. I mean,
Elko.
no.
No, yeah.
Um, I know the stupid
I know. I'm brain farting big
Wendover.
time.
Wendover.
Wendover. There you go. So, Wendover is before Montello. So when like Badger Life is saying near the Nevada border, again, Lucin is near the Nevada border. It's right there.
Yeah,
It's
that
30
is.
minutes from it. So was he
So
found actually in Lucin or where,
well, it's probably. I would think then it's probably closer, you know, the west side of Lucin, as opposed to, you know, northeast or south.
So you
According,
think, yeah.
well, we'll find out. I'm sure that.
Let me ask you a question, Glory.
Okay,
Do you think Brenner was helped at all?
I think that he was probably helped in covering up after the fact.
I agree.
And
Guilty knowledge. Guilty knowledge. Badger Life is saying Lucin. He was found in Lucin. That's amazing.
oh, in Lucin proper. Okay. Well, that fits with. I mean, you know the area that you see the most often, and that would be between, Dylan's farm, because he was working out there, and oh, what's his name, the guy with the barbecue and was holding the guns for him.
Don Haley.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I would expect it to be somewhere around one of those areas where he would be traveling back and forth between, and go, well, hey, there's a good spot, to do. And I'd be curious to see.
That was always my thing, was this was literal desert. I mean, when I talked to Jeff Ross, the FBI agent, he said to me in frustration, he goes, I'm out here. I've been out here a month. I come home every day just covered in dirt and sand, and he was frustrated with it. But I mean, they had been out there a month searching all around Lucin, and he said it to me with such frustration in his voice, like I'm so frustrated that every day I'm coming home with sand and dirt in my pockets and everything, and I'm trying to find this kid. And I just thought it's like finding a needle in a haystack.
Well, that's exactly why I did the video of just driving the roads that Dylan would have driven, because that seemed to me the best way to kind of convey to somebody, just showing the land in real time, how it goes on and on and on.
Yeah, so I mean, you could just pick any spot. Just pick a random spot, off the roadway, off any type of roadway, and I mean, it would be so incredibly difficult to find, and I really, if I'm being honest, I've said it, I just did not ever think that he would be found, and I'm grateful that he actually buried him. I am
Well,
grateful.
we presume that he was buried. We don't really know yet, but I think that it's,
You don't know? You don't think so?
well, could have been dumped under something and kind of covered up a bit, which isn't quite the same as bury, partially exposed but kind of hidden from view, because you got some debris covering,
Yeah.
so that not, I mean, people just abandon their junk out there. They don't take things to the transfer station in Montello. They just dump things, and
Yeah. Yeah, but I always thought, we're talking about the desert again. I mean, the best way would just completely leave a body exposed. Let the elements take it, let
Mhm.
the birds and all of that do their thing. And as long as you put him in a remote enough spot, you probably get away with it.
Mhm.
But I mean, I again, I mean, if he led them to the remains, he knows exactly where they were. So it just kind of leads me to believe that he buried him. We don't know for sure, but that's why
Mhm.
I'm assuming that, because he knows exactly.
Yeah.
So I think one of your commenters here is saying something.
Yeah, Chandra Tasha, welcome. Yes, we're all so glad that the end of this terrible, waiting and wondering is over for them, and that they can lay him to rest, and they can have a place to go visit, and lay
Honor him.
flowers,
Pray
and
for
it just
him.
kind of sit there and remember him, and maybe talk, leave little little
Mementos,
little
flowers.
mementos. It's just nice to have a place.
Oh God, this makes me cry. I'm thinking to myself, it'd be really lovely if they had a bench at Dylan's grave so
Yeah.
that his family could sit and talk
Well,
to him.
my mom, when my grandmother died, we went looking at the cemetery for a plot, and they had a place that was where we could have an upright stone, but it was right on the edge of the road by the sidewalk, and it was like, nah. And
Yeah,
and they said they had a couple of spots that were under the weeping willow tree, and so we went and looked at that and went, oh, this is where it is. And so
that's beautiful.
my mom died 2 years later, but there were 4 benches surrounding the base of the weeping willow tree, and unfortunately
Mm.
they took the weeping willow tree out, and I'm hoping they'll plant another one in its place, because they've got these 4 benches that are surrounding the spot, and it's right there by mom and grandma's grave. And it was such a pretty spot under the weeping willow tree, and
I
yeah,
love weeping willows. Absolutely my favorite tree.
and
I've actually always said I wanted to be buried under a weeping willow.
Well,
But
maybe they can have some GoFundMe thing for people
yeah,
who want to contribute to a memorial like that, because that would be really a wonderful thing, and I'm sure a lot of people would be happy to contribute.
I am very much, I think I've done a good job because I haven't absolutely broke down and cried on your live stream. But I just keep getting these waves, I just keep thinking, what if this is one of my own sons? I've had 20-year-old sons. My son, my 19-year-old son will be 20 this year. To just after 2 years to finally have him back is just, and you're getting
Hmm.
him back to put him in a grave.
Hmm.
And that's just heartbreaking.
But there's so
I
many people.
just,
I mean, when one of Ted Bundy's victims, he told where he had left her, and all the mother got was a patella. That's all they found.
and I do wonder how much of Dylan did they find? Did they find a full skeleton intact? Is there broken fragments? I don't know. As a true crime person, I guess I just
Hmm.
wonder these things. But I do wonder, and I kind of hope that he wasn't cut up and all of that. I hope that he is fully just his skeletal remains, which is what I assume is left. Is
After
how,
this time, there's not going to be much soft tissue
yeah.
remaining. You might have some sinew, but very little, very little at this point would remain.
But like you said, they'll be
Sandra,
able. Oh,
Sandra Tasha, yes. After showing law enforcement where the body is, it's hard to back out of a plea deal.
yeah, I
And
mean,
it is an
you
admission of guilt. I mean, to take to the body at that point, if he says, "No, I want to retract," the plea. Okay, well, then you're going to the trial, and they've got you on tape doing all this. So
yeah,
there's
I mean,
there's no chance, really.
well, not to get off topic of Dylan, but I feel like it's the same thing with Chad Daybell. I mean, for the love of God, sir, you had two children buried in your backyard. I mean, just admit the guilt. You
Well,
know,
yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, we saw the evidence already.
evidence has been out
Um,
for years. You know what? I seen somebody comment something, and I could not agree more. They said, these laws, like trials and going to trials and all these things, were made, a century or two ago, so long ago, where we didn't have phones and forensic evidence and all of that stuff, where people actually need to be put on trial and given a due process. But now, you have, I mean, technology has changed everything. I've said it a million times, but forensic data is just taking people out left and right when you're guilty. So they've had this forensic data with Brenner. They've had all this stuff. So it's kind of like, I believe in the justice system, but do we really need Chad Daybell sitting in jail for 4 years before he's convicted when all of the evidence is already in the public? We all know it. I've read every text message. I've seen all
mhm.
the stuff. I know what's going to be presented to the jury because I've watched Lori's trial.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I mean, can we just get on with the penalty phase,
Well,
please?
people are always saying presumed innocent until proven guilty. No, that's a fallacy.
Yeah,
Presumed innocent under in the eyes of the law until proven guilty. You're not
got
saying
to
that
itch.
no crime happened until the jury says this crime happened and that this person did it. The sudden person doesn't suddenly get transported back in time and suddenly did the crime because, no, they're guilty from the time they did it. We've seen the evidence. The presumption of innocent is,
gone.
for the trial. But, we've already seen the evidence.
We've seen all of it. I mean, you could just go right down the line, read Melanie Gibbs' taxes, Lori's chats, all of them. But again, to bring this back to Dylan, they've had the forensic evidence with Brenner. They knew. They knew what he did. He knew they knew what he did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he would be taking a plea if he didn't.
Yeah.
Whoever his counsel is probably saying, "Hey, listen, they have the boy's phone. You're on there, okay? Cleaning a gun with blood all over your arms. You might want to take a plea, or you're gonna leave this place in a box. But
Mm-hmm.
either way, I think Brenner's leaving jail in a box, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that he should leave in any other way.
Okay, well, I just checked the docket and it doesn't have any hearing date. Now, I wasn't expecting a hearing date since it's 30 days out, and then it turns out the hearing was postponed, and probably partly postponed because they were working on this deal. And so,
Yeah.
well, as soon as we have a press conference or something, I'll jump on that. I assume that Box Elder will have a press conference. I don't know that it'll be tomorrow or if it'll be in a few days when they have results from the coroner. It may just be something. Yeah, we've done DNA test and we confirmed that it's him. We don't. I mean, who else could it be? I mean, I suppose it could be Aiden Klum. That's the only other
Tim
person.
Terry would probably tell you that might be who it is. I
Mm-hmm.
highly doubt it. I don't think James Brenner knows where Aiden Clune is.
I
So,
I doubt it. So
you know,
just just so that we can have it official. But I don't think there's any doubt that it's going to
yeah.
be.
This is a huge admission of
Yeah.
guilt. But again, I'm glad. I just, the fact that this person, Dylan Rounds, is finally going to be able to be laid to rest properly in whatever manner. Even if they just got back his elbow or what, whatever,
Yeah.
they have some part of him that they can that they can go and see.
Mm-hmm.
Even the public that has, it showed an outpouring of love and interest in trying to speculate, trying to find every single one of these people. I mean, Badger Life. I've seen this person for a long time with the
Mm-hmm.
Dylan's case. So there's just a lot of investment there. And, I know darn well if I ever visit Idaho, I probably will.
Mm-hmm.
But if I do, it's gonna be it's gonna be a stop on there,
Mm-hmm.
just to pay my respects to this young man. Just like if I'm going anywhere near Tennessee, I'm stopping for Summer Wells.
Mm-hmm.
I do it every
Yeah.
time, so same thing for him. And I don't know. I want to cry. I want to say something, but it's just too much. I'm so just overtaken with this. I just never thought this day would ever come. And so if a person that has never met Dylan, doesn't know him personally ever, feel this way, again, I can only imagine what his loved ones
Mm-hmm.
truly feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hope they have a lovely service. I hope they get. I hope they get a bench. I hope they
Me too.
have a nice memorial.
Was close to, I'm really thinking of his grandma just
Mm-hmm.
because of how close he was to
Yeah.
her. And I'm so glad that she doesn't have to go to her grave just
Yeah.
always wondering, because that
I
happens to a lot of
ran
people.
into the grandparents at the last hearing, and
Did you?
yeah, I did, and talked to her briefly, and I
What?
just going, are you Dylan's grandmother? And it says, yeah, how did you know? Well, I saw you at the last hearing, and the prosecutor, I was pretty sure it was them, and the prosecutor came over and talked to them after the hearing, and I was kind of leaning, trying to hear as much as I could, but it was kind of futile because it was the judge is talking and the prosecutor's talking and the defense attorney's talking, so I couldn't
How
catch.
how was her demeanor? What did she say?
Um, seemed sad, but
Ready for justice?
well, she didn't seem like she was, hellfire and brimstone kind of, let's get the pitchforks and so forth. But she's I think there for just most of the hearings since he got charged, and I'm not sure about the first one, but then I hadn't learned to recognize him, and the courtroom was a lot more crowded that day. So the last two hearings they were definitely at, and
All right. I've always wondered about her, because we see Candace, we've seen
mhm.
Justin,
She's a very soft-spoken lady.
maybe that's why Dylan loved her so much,
Hmm.
that she was so
She
maybe
seemed very like a gentle
soul.
soul.
I'm glad for her.
Yeah.
I just I think it would be a horrible thing for your and I think, I don't want to say that Dylan was her favorite grandchild, but I think they had a very special relationship.
Well,
So
you know, the Dylan had,
he's the oldest.
yeah, and he
Yeah.
had issues with parents, so he came and lived with them for a time, and
Right.
so it's natural that you know she's going to have a very close bond with him because of the circumstances. I mean, you don't go helping to fund his dream of having a farm,
Right.
if you go, oh, he's a layabout, and I don't want to have,
Yeah, he's worthless. He doesn't do anything.
no,
But
Dylan.
we're just gonna buy him a farm. Obviously they were trying to.
Well, Dylan was a very industrious young
Person.
man, and very hardworking. He wasn't the type. I mean, most kids his age are couch surfing in the parents' basement playing video games, and
Yeah,
um,
he's out farming.
yeah,
Trying to work.
yeah, and I mean,
Sorry.
when I was out there, we got taken, and oh, this crop of hay was Dylan was supposed to harvest this. He was going to be doing that soon, and he didn't get a chance to do that, and you know
It's hard to hear. It just is. I mean, everything just left behind, and it just done. Just that fast that this man, Brenner, snapped, and I do think he snapped. I don't think that Brenner, and I could be completely wrong, but just what I do know about Brenner, what I have seen of Brenner, I do believe that this was a snap, angry decision that he made. I don't think there was any premeditation to it. Maybe there was a prior fight that he was mad about, and that just escalated when him and Dylan came into contact. But I don't think there was any premeditation to it. I just think that he snapped. That's my opinion. But I have to use the bathroom, so I'm just gonna step away
okay,
for a second.
uh-huh.
Okay.
Oh, let's see, I'm getting reports saying Ty Corbin had no clue. about Dylan being found. So, yeah. So if there happens to be a live stream which comes up during the Daybell trial, I'll probably pause that and hop over to that. I get notifications from East Idaho News, which is a lot of times how I get word on developing stories. So I'll have to pay extra close attention to see if there's a notification saying that they're going to be having a press conference, because I don't always see those on YouTube when I'm monitoring a trial. So,
Really? Phew. I don't know. I still feel a little just amped up from this news, and I don't know. I might go live on my own channel later, so I just vent to
yeah,
everyone, as I'm sure
yeah.
they all just
Well,
want to.
there was. I remember when the guy was finally identified and arrested that killed Sherry Black, who was my neighbor from around the corner. Went to school with her daughter, and I had been following the case closely because I was driving on the way to the gym, and I saw all of these police cars and the mobile command center parked out in front of their house, and I went, oh, I hope that is something like there's having a police standoff around the corner, because that's not something you want to see in front of the house of anybody you know. And
Yeah.
when
Wendy, well, you should let Wendy Adelson know that. But anyway, go ahead. You should let her know that, because she doesn't know that. Wendy Adelson drives up on crime scenes where her husband and her old marital house is taped off where her children are, and she just doesn't stop. She just goes and gets bullet bourbon, and
cool.
believe, when she goes to court, when Georgia Cappleman finally goes after her, I'm going to be live streaming that with this cup. So I got this cup just for Wendy Adelson. But go ahead. Sorry. I had to throw that in there, Glory.
Sounds like people are starting to check in on somebody. Kurt has called in. Ellenberg has called in. So I'm not sure what channel. It might be time to raid another channel.
Oh, is there? Because I was going to ask Tay if she wanted to come on a live stream with me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask her right now, because I would love to hear her thoughts of all of this. I mean, again, it's been 2 years. I think I started talking to Taylina days after Dylan went missing, which is a case that come across my Facebook.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, wait, who's Dylan Rouse? This kid went missing on my birthday.
Okay.
That was the interest. And I was like, okay.
Apparently this is all going on Jim Terry on Rumble. I haven't been on Rumble for months.
I never go on Rumble. I don't even know what Rumble is. I've heard of it. I just have never been on it, and I don't know that I have an interest.
It's kind of a poor man's YouTube.
It sounds like it.
People go there once they've been kicked off of YouTube.
Yeah, is that where Doug is too? Is he on Rumble?
I think he tried to go there, and then I last I had heard was he was doing TikTok things.
God bless him. What happened to Tattoo Lady?
I think
She's
that
the
she's
sidekick or no?
well, I think that she's got a channel, and for a while he was appearing over on hers, and I think they kind of threatened her because, no, you're not supposed to post content of somebody who was banned, and you're not supposed to be having somebody who was banned on. But yeah,
If wallpaper was a person, it would be her. I'm just
yeah.
saying. If wallpaper, I don't want to talk a lot of shit, but if wallpaper was a person, it would be her.
Mm.
I don't know anyone that just gets, you know what, Glory. After this live stream, I'm gonna go get a tattoo of you on my. You go get a tattoo of your cat and Glory. I mean, who does this? Who does this? And people think this woman is sane. Like, she
Yeah.
committed a crime against her own body with putting Doug on there.
Well,
I'm just saying.
to
I'm
each
talking
their
about us.
own. I don't know. I've seen a lot of people at the gym with really bad tattoos that they look like they fell asleep. And
Okay,
some
I'm just
kids,
interested in you checking out people at the gym. That is hilarious. Who are you checking out at the gym, Glory?
well, you can't help but notice them when you're sitting in the sauna and they've got these full sleeves, and it looks like, are all over their body tattoos, and it looks like some little kid was coloring on them with magic markers while they were asleep.
Right. You know what? Did Dylan have any tattoos?
Not that I've
I don't
ever
believe
heard.
so.
I think
Yeah, I
that
think
would
so.
have been on some of the missing person posters, because they would want identifying marks if there was
Yeah.
something distinctive like that, because then there'd be very little doubt. If somebody spotted him and go, oh, he's got that tattoo on his arm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
God bless his soul. God bless his soul. I am very happy that he has
yeah.
been found. Not in
Well,
the manner, obviously. I think everyone wanted, especially Black Dove, for him to be alive.
yeah. Well, message him, say hi,
I will.
and going, at least he can be laid to rest properly now. The family will
I'm
be
going to be
getting
honest with
it.
you. I think Dove is going to take that very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I had people asking me, did he die? And I'm going, I don't know.
No. No. Actually, Tay reached out to me about that as well. She was like, I've heard that Black Dove died. I was like, no, he didn't die. I think he'd been wanting to do that for a while, to just step away. And I think he just finally did it. So I think when a lot of the coverage, sort of died down a little bit, I think that was a good time for him to just kind of exit out, and he did. So I don't know. I will text him and see if he answers, and just, let everyone know that you're alive. And I do, as many private, like, deep conversations that I had with him, I don't know who else he was super close to. I know there were other people, but I wouldn't mind being the person that tells him. I don't know. He's just very emotional, and I get it, because I'm so damn emotional. I don't usually get like this, but this case really has done it for me. I feel like it's the same thing, like if they found Summer Wells.
Yeah.
I
Well,
would have the
exactly.
same reaction.
We, you know, and there was a body found in Kingsport, but there are two ladies missing from around Kingsport too. So, we've got three bodies that, could potentially be, that we know of, and we don't know. Last I heard,
I don't think she'll be found unless something like Brenner happens. Where the person just tells where she is, because she's an even tinier little person. So I mean, have you been there? Have you drove by that place? Because
no, but I have driven through
so
Tennessee twice, and I can imagine because I've seen, similar terrain that I've driven through. So
That terrain's horrible. I mean, she's just a little 5-year-old girl.
yeah.
You driving through there, you're like, holy crap! This
Hmm.
kid could be anywhere in the tiniest little spot. I mean, it's just, and that's how I felt with Dylan. There's desert everywhere. Like he could just be buried here or there, and it would just all look the same. What would be the telling signs of it? And obviously, they didn't find that because they didn't find him.
Hmm.
They had to be told where he
Oh,
was.
well, and so often it's a case of, somebody has to be looking the right direction at the right time. Hi, hi, Criminal Med. They have to be looking the right direction, the right time. The lighting has to be just right, so they happen to see something, and it happens to draw their attention to it, and they decide to go look, or maybe something happens, like a tree falls over, and some bones are,
Yeah.
dislodged.
I feel like, because I know Susan Powell is a very special case for you. I feel like it'll be something like that if she's ever found, because I mean,
Well,
the husband's gone, but
yeah,
I just feel like if somebody finds her, it's gonna be a fluke.
yeah, it will be.
You know?
It would be a hunter or somebody in RV messing around and just happened to come across the site, and it's a miracle when that happens, because the circumstances have to be just right, and the person has to be looking in the right place. Otherwise, you can go right past. I mean, I was watching, or I how I like to do historic crime cases, and the West murders in over in the United Kingdom. Or no, it wasn't the West. It was 10 Rillington Place. Uh, people had gone out into the courtyard, and there was a bone, like a femur, propping up something, and nobody noticed. And I think even law enforcement had been in there at some point. And there's a stupid femur, but if you don't happen to have, if the foliage isn't, if it's hanging down and it's leafy and so forth, you're not necessarily going to see it. So I have to
Right.
be there at the right season, and the leaves are,
Just the right time.
yeah.
I find it interesting. This is going to be a little off topic, but it does relate. You know me and my astrology crap and all that. But this year is the year of the dragon, Chinese astrology, right? This year is also in Aquarius. So this is the year of truth. It's the year of discovery. You're going to be like this, things like this happening. People in your real life really telling you actually how they feel about you, or coming clean about things that they did wrong and stuff like that. And that's another thought that went through my mind with James Brenner. It's the year of truth. And here he
uh
goes.
Criminal
That's off
Med,
topic, but
we don't know exactly where it was, but I do think that I'll set up another live, and I'll get the video uploaded to my computer for when I went to Lucin Pond and walked around a good portion of it. I don't think I did the entire thing, but uh, I kind of wasn't pleased, because when we went on that trip, that turned out to be, I thought it was going to be like 4 of us going out there, and it turned out to be a circus. And so I was trying to stay off on my own as much as possible, and away from everybody else, so that I could get footage. And I was just kind of so displeased with things, that that it was such a, I when I messaged I tried to get a hold of Candace to see about getting her blessing to go to the farm to video. She was going, "No, you're a terrible person. You're one of the worst YouTubers and so forth. So unprofessional."
You?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I had been out on that expedition that they were treating it
Oh.
like a big field trip, and
And okay,
and
yeah.
I'm getting tarred with the brush. But when I went out there, I tried to steer clear of everybody else, so that they wouldn't be on camera, because I was just kind of appalled that that was being treated like a field trip.
Yeah, and I think there were some people, not you, but
Mhm.
some people that were part of that field trip that were taking things that did not belong to them. So maybe
Um,
that's why.
Possibly. I don't know. There somebody said something about some things from the grain shed, and I'm going, well, I didn't see that, so I can't say. But clearly, it was so inappropriate, and
Yeah.
I tried to not participate in that, and I didn't think that we'd be going out. you know I just thought we'd be doing a drive-by.
Yeah, I talked to you around that time, and I
Yeah.
remember you being, that's not exactly what you had in mind.
No.
You
No,
know,
I wanted a nice, solemn academic fact-finding mission, and not a field trip with the kindergarten.
right.
And
Same thing when I've been to Summer Wells's locations. There was a beautiful little rock that somebody had made and put by the tree by the pond where her last day on that she was seen. We didn't go out there to take things. We just went out there to see and honor, because that was my second time out where she was. And that's another case. I mean, if Summer Wells is ever found, I don't even know that I will be on a live stream, because I'm a big crybaby, in case you guys haven't figured that out. And I don't know. That child really, it just gets to me. And Aubrey, she still brings up Summer Wells. She still does.
mhm.
I don't know why
Well,
this child's so ingrained in her little 8-year-old head. She's 8 years old today.
well, she's
But
the same age that I was when I started hearing about young women going missing in
look,
Salt
and
Lake.
I like that she appears right behind me right now.
There she is.
Aubrey, you want to say hi? Today is your birthday.
Happy birthday.
Oh, she can't hear you because I got the headphones on.
Oh,
She said
okay.
happy birthday.
Thank you.
Okay, please go to bed. If you could just hang on 1 second, Gloria. Babe, can you please put her to bed? I love you.
I love you. Bye.
Okay, I'll check in on you. I did not expect this, so I need him to put her to bed because she has school tomorrow. It's 9:30.
Yeah.
She should have been in
Well,
bed 25 minutes ago.
and I'm going to be doing the trial. That's ostensibly it starts at 8:30 in the morning, but I noticed that I think Crime Talk with Scott Rice isn't starting till 9 o'clock. So clearly he's anticipating that they won't actually start doing anything, because um, Ju- uh, Judge Boyce has a bit of a reputation for starting late. But I'll turn on the thing, and I'll be ready to go, and I'll wait until things actually start happening before
Judge
I
Boyce
go live.
pisses me off sometimes. Can I just say that? That Judge Boyce pisses me off.
Mm.
And you know who else has been pissing me off lately? Judge.
I heard the Scott Rice's analysis of the the questions being asked of in the survey,
Yeah.
and going, be sure that the kids are out of the room. Have you heard that that Koberger was driving around on the night of the murders.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean, really, it just them not if they can seat a jury for Chad Daybell, they can 1,000% seat a jury for Brian Koberger.
well, you've got people
And you know, we
who
we live we live in an age of tech now. We
Mhm.
live in an age of internet. So finding an impartial jury that has never heard, lives under a rock, has never heard anything, is just kind of, it's not realistic. I don't feel like.
Well,
And the
actually,
evidence should speak for itself. No matter
actually,
what you've heard,
yeah.
the evidence should speak for itself.
Well, that's the thing is when I was in paralegal school, we were assigned the subject of should gay parents be gay couples be allowed to adopt, and we were going, oh, of course they should, and so forth, and so we started doing research, and the research actually said no,
No.
they shouldn't. And so, we went in with one perspective, and the evidence that we found, it changed our mind. And so, I like to think that, yeah, I may have heard of something, but um,
It doesn't make it concrete proof.
well,
Reading things online, reading things on the internet, and all of people's opinions is one thing. Sitting
mhm.
inside of a courtroom, you are given instructions. I think juries tend to take them very seriously.
Well,
They
yes,
understand I have a person's life in my hands.
yeah.
So exit out everything else. I need to hear just facts. This is how I would be as a
Well,
juror in a case like
I
that.
don't think that I could be seated as a juror on Chad's because I watched Lori's. And so, I know what the evidence is. And
Yeah, but honestly, if you're just online and you're curious about that case, if you Google it, everything's there.
mhm.
All the texts, all the everything, it's all there. Body cam footage of Charles and Lori and just
But
all of them.
I will have
You
to
know,
say, though,
Melanie Gibb
it is
giving
different.
interviews.
It is different being there in the courtroom. We didn't actually see Lori's trial, we just heard it. And so we didn't see the exhibits and so forth. We didn't see the demeanor of the
It's true.
witnesses and so forth. And so, you know, I think that I probably would find Chad guilty based on the evidence that we heard at Lori's trial. But hey, maybe they've got some big surprise that they're going to pull out. And, it's
The
like,
only
oh,
surprise they can pull out is this wasn't actually Chad's property. The property line stopped here and it was the neighbors.
oh, well,
Because just
that
the two
isn't
kids
enough.
being buried in your backyard,
That isn't enough.
I mean, it's ridiculous, really. You have two children buried in your backyard. They're your wife's children. Please put this man away, and let's just never hear about him again. And honor the victims. The teenage girl and the very young boy
Yeah.
that was murdered. These are the people that should be remembered.
Well, I took flowers to Tammy's grave
Did
the
you?
day after
Oh.
the day after Lori was convicted, and it took me forever to find the grave. Turns out that it was right by where the GPS coordinates took me, but I wasn't even sure I was in the right section of the cemetery. And so I finally I pulled up a news video where they showed the grave, and I started looking for landmarks in the video, going, okay, it's by a tree that looks like this, and so forth. And so I started looking around, and it turns out that it was fairly close to where I had parked the first time. And then I'd gone over to the other side of the street where the larger section of the cemetery was. And then I came back to the first one, and and I was afraid
I'm glad you did that, because I feel like Tammy is
she
often
gets overlooked.
overlooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that we both had that same word, but often gets overlooked. And what a wonderful woman.
Mm-hmm.
Bore 5 children, was a librarian, was
Yeah.
very faithful to her husband, her church, and her
Yeah.
children, and her
Well,
grandchildren.
it
What
actually,
what 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 more do you want in a person,
yeah,
really?
it
You know?
wasn't actually flowers. It was actually a grapevine wreath in an urn with apples and ivy on it. So, because
Really?
she was a school teacher, and
Mm,
so I saw the apples. I had another flower arrangement that I would on a wreath that I was going to leave, and I went, "Oh, the apples. That's perfect."
that is
And
perfect.
so I picked that one up instead.
I
And
always, like we both said, she's often overlooked. But Tammy in her real life, Tammy Daybell, was just beloved,
mhm.
by her family, her sister, all these people. Her children still upset me to this day, so I don't even talk about them because they just piss me right off. Um,
I think one of the sons was coming around to being to where, by the end of Lori's trial, because something that
Garth,
might be, I can't remember,
really,
but he said something that kind of made me think that he kind of was thinking that,
Chad
you
was
know,
guilty.
yeah. Yeah, he doesn't
That's
want to
interesting.
admit it, but I think that it was to the point where he couldn't deny it.
Yeah, because you can't. I mean, the evidence is just it's crushing. I'll hand it to John Pryor all day. I mean, you've delayed like the with the best of them. I could make a really crude joke right now. I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it alone. But I was about to make a really crude joke. But he is delayed uh brilliantly, I would have
Well,
to say.
I
Annoyingly.
I was doing some research on John Pryor because somebody in chat while watching the jury selection process says he's not even a criminal lawyer. And so I pulled up the ad for his practice and went, "Oh, you're kidding me, he isn't." And so
Yeah,
um
which is ridiculous with that case because
well,
it's
it's a
a
death
death
penalty
penalty
case, and
case.
he's not even a
Exactly.
criminal lawyer.
Yes. So again, I have questions for Judge Boyce. Why was Pryor allowed to be left on this case when you know that he needed a defense or a death penalty lawyer? Why was Pryor allowed to do this? It just doesn't make sense to me. And then you have constant delays, constant delays. This costs the state money. You
Mm-hmm.
put this man away already.
Yeah.
Stop playing these lawyer games and this nonsense. Just cut it out. We've already seen all the Lori crap. We've seen damn near every piece of evidence they have to throw at you, other than pictures of the children, which I don't even want to see that. I don't know who
No,
wants to see that.
no.
But all the evidence that matters, it's already there. It's online. It's a simple Google search away. So don't tell me that you can't walk into that court and try this case right now. And John Pryor, I still want to represent Chad, but I've kind of used up all his money. It's not about money, but he doesn't have any more, so I went off the case. What?
Mm-hmm.
You're speaking out of both sides of your mouth. You're
Well,
saying
it was
two things
another
at the same time.
attempt to delay for another 18 months.
He's a slick one, that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well,
But
I found some other stuff, and I'm going to talk about him during a lunch break tomorrow.
oh yeah, I might tune in for that because I want to know. I do know. Well, maybe I shouldn't say this because I might spoil your thing. Because I know Pryor has priors.
Yes.
Yeah, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
and and
I
and
know.
his sentence and everything, and then the ad for his law firm.
He's like I said, he's a slick Willie. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, he's again. But
Yeah.
if I were you, I would name the live stream that. Let's talk about priors.
Mhm.
You know, because it fits. But I think I'm gonna get off,
Yeah.
Lori. I'm gonna
Well,
go check on Aubrey. And I was
yeah.
gonna
And
say the baby, and she's not a baby anymore. But
I need to start winding down for going to sleep so I can get up early and.
I am definitely not going to sleep. I'm not gonna lie to anyone. I am not going to sleep. I'm probably gonna go live on my own channel.
Well, I
Honestly.
didn't sleep for 3 days after they arrested Sherry Black's killer. You know, my friend and neighbor.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I would understand why. I mean,
well, and
it's your neighbor.
I'd been funneling tips to law enforcement as recent as 3 months before the arrest, and I was going, could it have been that my
Tips helped.
avenue of investigation triggered something that they followed? You know, because if the guy had not been in juvenile detention during high school, I would have had his photo and name.
Wow.
But I'd been checking out a podcast where it was a cold case and they had a phenotype image because of some blood that was left on a door jamb in the apartment. And so the mother was going around from high school to high school looking at yearbook photos to find somebody that looked like the phenotype, and she found him. But it turned
Wow.
out it was a red herring because her daughter had lent out the apartment to a friend for a romantic assignation, and he had got hurt at the
Wow.
scene. And so it was completely coincidental. And I went, okay, according to the Viduct Society, we know that the guy lived within blocks, you know, maybe a 1 mile radius of the crime scene. And
Wow.
so if he lived within a mile of the crime scene, he went to my alma mater. And so I pulled out my yearbooks and I looked for anybody in, you know, I came up with 3 names going, well, in case you're off about the age, here's the 3 people that you might want to check out. He most resembles Pee-wee, but it's not him. And the cold case detective was a year behind me in high school, and he goes, well, I agree, it wasn't Pee-wee. But you know, he was kind of interested in that. And but this guy was living, I would say just on the outer range of 1 mile from the murder scene at the time of the murder. And if he had been in school, I would have had all the yearbooks year by year and found each candidate and presented them to the detective and go, you know, here they are. You know, these are your people you need to
These are
investigate.
your guys, yeah.
And it turns out that the killer was the adoptive son of another family that was 2 blocks further west than me. And the adoptive father chased my sister in high school. And the younger brother was chasing after me. Mom could have married off my brother to the sister. She would have. And I'm going, well, you know, if
Lori, I need to bring you on my channel, just interview you about your life stories. We'll be there for hours. You know, 50,000 views. I mean, we just need your stories. I
yeah,
mean,
so anyway, he could have been a possible double or triple nephew, depending on if all of these marriages that could have possibly taken place had taken place. But he didn't. So
Yeah, I just need one day of Glorindellen stories. I just one day. We'll knock it right out of the park because you always have some good stories. So stories, not in lies, just actual stories.
okay,
Because
well, for the few of you that are with us still, thanks for joining, and I'll see about setting up a live in the next few days with some of the stuff that I took on that that trip a year ago last August out to Montello and Lucin, and
it feels like yesterday and then so long ago at the same time. I can't explain that, but that's how it feels.
So, and if we have a press conference, I will hop on for that too. Thank you for joining, Badger. It's always good to see you. And so we'll see you later. Join me for Chad Daybell if you feel inclined. We'll see you soon, and over and out. Good night.
Bye, guys.